People got a lot of opinions, and today we're gonna look at some of them about what people believe are the most overrated cars in the world. So we're gonna be going to none other than Reddit, the world's largest collection of opinions in the world, and we are going to be seeing what people have to say, and I'm gonna be giving my own opinions on what they have to say. Keep in mind, not every opinion is good. Some of them are garbage. My battery is literally already dying. Let me go get the other one. That didn't take long. And to make this more like a normal video of mine, we got the coffee, we got the old mental stimulant, the old opinion lubricant, and we're gonna get going with it. We're gonna crack this baby open right now from Lacombe Coffee Co. or whatever. You can get these at Costco or gas stations. They're pretty good. I enjoy. So as we stand in front of my arguably overrated car, let's hop onto Reddit and see what people have to say. And the best way to sort ever on Reddit is by controversial. And the best way to actually see what you're reading when you're out in the daylight is to turn up your brightness. First things first, this is on r/cars. What is your most overrated car? The OP said, for me it is the G-Wagon. I think it's the worst possible way to blow 6 figures on a car. What do you guys think? I don't necessarily disagree with that. I mean, I don't mind G-Wagons, but I really do not understand why they're such a status symbol, considering they literally look very, very, very similar to the ones from the 70s, still to this day. Also, you can buy one for like 30 grand that's like a 2001, and it literally still looks basically identical to a brand new one. I don't know, man. They're not my thing, but they look cool, I guess. Next person says, coming from someone who prefers to buy rather than lease basically all modern European luxury cars. Jaguar, Audi, BMW, Mercedes, Alfa, Range Rover, the luxury ones, etc., etc. All of these cars are built to be leased and then dumped off for the next best thing. They're not actually intended to be purchased. Performance is incredible, interiors look good, but that's it. Only way I would ever purchase one is if I had the knowledge and tools to do my own work. It's funny to me that they say that, because having the knowledge and tools to do your own work doesn't help on modern European vehicles that are like luxury vehicles that are complicated and stuff like that. A lot of those systems need to be programmed in order to work, and sometimes it's not necessarily a mechanical thing that's out of whack. It's electronics, and there's not a lot you can do about it from your own garage. So I actually don't know if I agree with that. Do I think that European cars are overrated? I don't know if I'd say they're super overrated, because the amount of people that praise them like they're the highest thing in the world are almost equally opposed by the people that hate them and would never ever own one. So I don't know. Next person, Jeep Wrangler. Unreliable, slow, can't handle, mediocre off-road, and overpriced. I've been saying this for a little while. There's one thing they're completely wrong about though, mediocre off-road. You're a complete idiot if you say that it's mediocre off-road. Compared to what? There are basically very few other new stock cars that you can buy that will do pretty much any sort of off-roading you'll throw at it the same way that a Jeep Wrangler can. So I think that's ridiculous. Are they generally unreliable, slow, handle terribly, and overpriced? Absolutely. And the thing that I don't understand is, yes, they are great for what they are designed for. They are not great street vehicles to drive every single day. The amount of people that drive a Jeep Wrangler every single day as their only car just because they like how it looks or the idea of it, there are so many better choices than Jeep Wranglers. I don't mind them, but they're certainly not as good at just a daily driver task as pretty much anything else would be, including even like a Bronco, very similar vehicle, and yet still tends to be more comfortable. I don't know, man. Next person says Lamborghini Urus, impractical, zero off-road capability, too heavy to be a serious performance car, and for all of the money, you can get a Range Rover and a nicely spec'd 911. A stock 911 will run circles around it, and Range Rover is a proper everyday off-roader. The Urus, unlike most crossovers, does nothing well other than attract attention. Saying it's not a performance vehicle is a little bit ridiculous. People would not claim that about like a Trackhawk, and it's in the same general performance bracket. Yes, it is an SUV, and no, I'm sure it's not fantastic at off-roading, but is it going to off-road better than the average car of its performance on-road? Probably. Is it overrated? Yeah, it's a Lamborghini. That's why people buy it. To be honest, people like us that just don't fall into the income bracket to afford something like that as like a regular everyday car are probably never going to understand. It's probably always going to seem overrated to us. Next person said Mazda 3. I do not agree with that at all if we were talking about the modern Mazda 3. I worked at a dealership that sold Mazdas. The Mazdas did not have nearly as many severe problems as a lot of the other brands. It's not that it doesn't happen, but the modern, most updated Mazda 3 is an incredibly nice car for the price. It has good performance, it gets good gas mileage. The interior is literally best in class. It is a great car. I will say, if we're talking about the Fazda days, when a lot of it was just based on Ford stuff, and this is coming from someone who owns 2 Fords, so it's not like I'm not aware of how it is. The Mazda 3s that were based on Ford equipment, Ford engines and stuff like that are much, much worse vehicles in comparison. I still don't think it's overrated. How many people do you really hear praising a Mazda 3 like it's the greatest thing in history? Next person said, new Dodge Challenger / Charger. They're fast and overall nice cars, but there's too many of them, and all of them join car meets and clubs and act like they belong. They're in the same spectrum as new Mustang guys now. Just writing a fat check. Gotta take a sip of coffee for this one, because I got personally attacked. Except for not really, I didn't write a fat check for this car, it wasn't that expensive. It's also not new, so. I don't know if I would say they're overrated. I think they're starting to get overpriced. Now granted, inflation, blah, 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 whatever. As a person of my age, it's really affecting me the most right now, more than ever before. But ultimately, I don't think they're super overrated cars. I think they can be, but I think they're far from the most overrated. I will say they're probably some of the most ricey cars anymore. I'm not sure why every broke Honda Civic guy that suddenly got a good job went out, bought a Challenger, never took off the front lip guard things, and then, I don't know, straight piped it, put a bunch of stickers on it, and then their Instagram handle in their window so that everyone could see their bone stock Challenger RT. I don't get it, man. And I love Challengers. I thought about getting one. I almost considered buying a Challenger before I bought this car. My brother-in-law has a Challenger RT. They're great cars, but there's really not much to brag about in the same way that I wouldn't brag about my Mustang. It is faster than the general car that you'll come across on the street, but I would still get smoked by a lot of people. I don't get why people buy, especially the Pentastar V6 models of the Challenger and Charger, and then act like they're the fastest thing on the road because they look theoretically fast. I don't know. Not my crowd, not my thing, I guess. Oof, this one's a doozy. Not to be confused with a Duesenberg. Mazda Miata, it's small, slow, horribly overpriced for what it is, impractical, and absolutely worthless if you're taller than a circus midget. Oof, my guy, you gotta be careful about your wording here. Miata is not always the answer. It almost never is, actually. I don't think this person understands Miatas, and don't get me wrong, this is coming from a person who does not fit in the newest ND Miata. I cannot fit. I don't fit in even the soft top. With the roof off, yes, I fit, but my head sticks over the windshield. I'm like 6'4", 6'5", somewhere in there. And no matter how I position the seat, no matter how I try to slouch myself down in one way or another, my head touches the roof. I couldn't own one, it would drive me insane. So yeah, they're small, but that is kind of the point. Saying you can't be taller than a circus midget is kind of ridiculous. I feel like you can't be much taller than like 6 foot, but it's not like you can't make it work for you. There is modifications you can do. You can get a lower mount seat bracket. They're not my favorite car. I do think that they are overrated, to be 100% fair. Don't get me wrong, the Miata is always the answer thing is absolutely not the case, but I don't think that they're really overrated. I think they are a little overrated, and I do think that they are maybe a little overpriced, but they're very nice for the price. They're very, very reliable, and they are good cars. I don't know. I do think they're getting a little overrated, but that happens with almost any car that's been beloved for like 3 decades, so what do you expect? This person said, Classic muscle cars. They look and sound so cool, but they are definitely not up to par with modern cars. Those giant V8s sound mean, but they chug gas and are hooked up to archaic transmissions and often bias ply tires. Well, not anymore, but sure, in the 70s. This means that you lose a decent amount of power in the driveline and spin the tires if you get on the gas too much. Most of them drive like old pickup trucks and are probably even less safe. They lean hard in the corners, they have no safety features, a lot of them are 50 plus years old. Cars have come a long way since then. I don't think that makes them overrated. You can point at literally any car of the past at any point, including cars that are only this old, and point at all of the advancements we've made and been like, well, now it's overrated. I don't think that makes it overrated in any way, shape, or form. Also, pointing out that they often came with bias ply tires is kind of ridiculous because I highly doubt the car is going to have the same tires 50 years later. Hopefully it won't even have the same tires 10 years later. That is like the most useless point ever. I get what they're saying, but being into classic cars of any sort, whether it's muscle cars or whatever it might be, there's a totally different appeal to them that is not at all the same as modern cars, and I think that calling them overrated for that reason and for them basically not being a modern car is just sort of missing the point entirely. Because in my case, you know, I thought about getting a muscle car of a lot of different generations. Ultimately, I bought a much more modern muscle car. This fits my needs better, but I wouldn't really say that this is less overrated or even really strictly better for any given person than a classic muscle car is. As a car, like on paper, yes, this is a way better car than any muscle car from the past, but it's not really going to fit everyone's needs in the same way or what everyone wants in the same way as a classic muscle car could. This one I don't think is really valid, but that's just my opinion. Oh, it strikes again. The next person, VW Golf. They are not even bad cars for the price. I just don't get the cult-like following. They're kind of ugly in my opinion, and I'm someone who likes hatches / wagons. This person replied, same here, it's a glorified Jeep? What? I don't know if they mean the following, but their following is like so different. Also, I think if you have to say something has a cult-like following, automatically, as a whole, it's not overrated. The Volkswagen scene is really odd if you look at it from almost any perspective outside of being in the Volkswagen scene. It's kind of surprising how in depth it goes, but I don't know if I would say that Golfs as a whole are overrated. I mean, they're good cars. It's a very well-selling car, especially outside of the United States. I don't think you can really call that overrated. It's definitely successful, but I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that one. This person literally started with, oh boy, here we go. I'm ready for the crap storm and it's about to come at me. R34 Skyline, disgustingly overweight car that constantly cheated the horsepower agreements. Every car cheated the horsepower agreements. Every single car. This is not like a thing only for the Skyline, and it's hilarious to me that they even said that. It only ever really won Japanese only all-stock races. That's not true. They also did well in other racing series in like Australia and stuff like that, but I mean, I get what they're saying, but regardless. Meaning up against Civics and Integras and S2000s at worst. The new GTR isn't as bad, even though they continue to cheat specs as much as possible and claim Nürburgring records that are impossible and other nonsense. A factory tune that involves race tires on a limited edition trim level is not a production car. Ford Mustang used to beat it out in this category. Not that I could tell you which generation in particular, but they finally pulled their head out of their butt and got rid of the live axle a few years ago. What did this person smoke before they commented this? Now let me just say first and foremost, I totally understand why people would call Mustangs overrated. I don't think they're overrated because they had a live axle and that makes them inherently bad or something like that. It's not like a live axle means that the car can't perform well in corners. There's plenty of cars that people love historically that have live axles, but everyone talks about it in the Mustang because they carried it on longer than they probably should have. But, you know, I don't care if people say that about Mustangs. I'm not the type of owner to get butthurt about that. Whatever, I know it's a popular car. R34 Skyline, I'm gonna say it first and foremost, I agree. I think the R34 Skyline and Skylines in general are incredibly overrated. And I say that as someone who loves Skylines. I would love to own a Skyline. Personally, one of my all-time dream cars is an R33 GTR. But I do think that the hype is absolutely insane and way overblown for them. But with that being said, I think this person took the complete wrong approach for what is wrong with them. They're not really overweight for their size. Like the Alteza or Alteza all-wheel drive system is kind of heavy and clunky, but I don't think that the car as a whole is really particularly overweight for like a mid-sized all-wheel drive car with an iron block inline six. I don't really think that that's true. And like I had mentioned previously, saying they cheated the horsepower agreements is just hilarious to me. This is a person that heard a story, found an example of a car that cheated the gentleman's agreement and decided, oh, they're the villain. You know what else did? Mark IV Supras. You know what else did? 300ZX twin turbos. You know what else did? Pretty much every Japanese car that was even relatively performance-minded whatsoever. Subarus, Evos, none of them made 276 horsepower. That's kind of the point. So, I mean, I agree that it is an overrated car. I just think their reasoning is honestly kind of hilarious. This person says, any BMW ever, pretty much. Source, Am was a mechanic. Is it Am or was? This person says F-150s, have no idea why Americans love this truck so much. Rather drive a Tundra and know it will last me for the next 15 to 20 years. There's a lot of reasons why, and okay, if I was gonna buy a new truck now, I would probably buy an F-150 for basically one major reason. I think it's absolutely absurd that there's like no other truck brand right now that has made an fully aluminum body truck in the same way that Ford has, where you just do not have to deal with issues of corrosion and rust in the same way with aluminum body panels like you do with steel. My dad has a 2014 Sierra and he's always kept really good care of it. The truck's in great shape. It pretty much looks brand new. And even he had issues with rotting out rocker panels because the design of those trucks and pretty much every truck is really bad. Where the body panels are stamped is kind of at the absolute bottom, which means that the drain holes in the rocker panels cannot be at the absolute bottom. So water gets in and it doesn't go out. So therefore they rust. That is not really a problem with aluminum in the same way. I don't want to deal with a rusty truck ever, and a lot of the power plants that come in F-150s are very proven and have been in them for a long time without really many problems. There's a lot of reasons why people buy F-150s, and there's a lot of reasons why people don't buy Tundras. They're still using the same 5.7 liter V8 that's been in Toyota SUVs and trucks for a long time, and it does not get good gas mileage at all in comparison to almost any of the other trucks. Now granted, I have not looked at the specs on the newest Tundra that came out just within like the past, I think like year or two, so that might have changed, but for the longest time their gas mileage and towing capacity and things like that were kind of trailing in comparison to the rest of them. And also, this is just an opinion, I don't like the design or materials of their interiors. I think that almost every other truck had a nicer and better looking interior than the Tundras for the longest time. I also think the newest Tundra is hideous personally, but that's just me. I know that they're a good truck, don't get me wrong. If anyone buys a Tundra, I completely understand why you do, but I completely understand why people buy pretty much any truck. They're all pretty good at this point, and they all excel at different things. All right, and the last one that we'll cover is this person that said, Tesla, any model Tesla. Now, normally I wouldn't mind, but according to many Tesla owners, even fanboys, Tesla is like the greatest EV in the world that is 5 years ahead of the competition, and that typical ICE giants like VW, Ford, Toyota are doomed. That to me is overrated. Tesla production is shoddy. Expected as they're a new company. Their motors, batteries are not something special. The only technology that they have is self-driving, which is far from perfect. There are numerous cars that are more efficient, like the Kia e-Niro. They have more range per kilowatt hour. Sure, they're pretty good cars, and it's amazing what Elon has done in such a short amount of time with that money, but they are far from the best thing in the world. Well, I agree. What Tesla has managed to do is amazing in the fact that any person that doesn't particularly care about cars that much just wants a Tesla. Everyone's dream car is a Tesla, and somehow everyone has this idea that they are the greatest feeling driving, fastest, most luxurious cars on the road, and they're not at like any of that. Yes, the Tesla Model S Plaid is unbelievably fast. That is absolutely true. Yes, the interiors are decent. Yes, they are good driving cars. But how they got this status that they're the best thing ever, I don't understand. And granted, for several years after the release of the Model S, Tesla was absolutely head of the pack when it comes to EVs. Nothing else was even remotely close to challenging that. We were looking at like Ford Focus Electrics and like stuff like that that is okay, but is just not nearly of the same level as a Tesla. But nowadays, there's a lot of genuine challengers. And as much as people don't like it, the Ford Mustang Mach-E is a great car that absolutely challenges Tesla. There are plenty of examples of great cars that absolutely challenge Tesla. Lucid, Rivian, what have you. And some of the decisions that Tesla makes now are just weird. And some of it is just absolute hubris that because they've come up with this fan base, no matter what they do, people will buy it. And there is a select amount of people that probably will. But the yoke, no one asked for that. The Cybertruck that looks like a cardboard box that someone spray painted silver, nobody asked for that. Their build quality for a while was absolute trash. You would see Teslas with their trim that was offset by nearly an inch panel to panel, which is just absolutely unacceptable for the money that you spend on them. That has improved, but at the time, that was a huge issue. And it, you know, like I said, it's improved a lot. They've gotten a lot better in that way, but I've still seen some issues with them not being the greatest built cars. And again, they're not cheap. Their interiors, I think, are just bland and cold and kind of ugly. The Model 3 looks like you're sitting in a hospital waiting room that has a tablet and a plank of wood in it. Everything pretty much in the entire car has to be done on the screen, which is not technologically advanced, it's just inconvenient. Not everything going to a screen, which is a modern thing, is better. That's a dead end. There are so many problems I have with Tesla as a company. And the thing is, I would not even care at all. I would not badmouth Tesla at all if it was not for what the people mentioned in this paragraph, which I could not agree with more, which is the incessant fanboys. Oh my goodness. The bandwagoners are just unbearable. And I've seen a lot of people that are unbearable with cars. I've seen a lot of people in the same like ownership groups I've been in. Mustangs. Some Mustang guys are the worst. WRX guys. Some WRX guys are the worst. I should know as a person who owned 2 Subarus and has never vaped once. 350Z guys, half of them are like 15 years old, don't even have a driver's license yet, drive it once and then spin out into a telephone pole and then set up a GoFundMe to help them rebuild their dream. And for some reason the goal is like $30,000. I understand being into something, but I just can't get behind people that will fight someone that is the best thing ever. Defend your brand when it's being attacked, sure. But oh my goodness, shut up when it comes to bragging all the time to every person that you ever come across about how much you like your car, you like the brand of the car. I get that you like it, but you are ruining it for other people. I'm glad that I got that off my chest. But with that being said, if you want to buy a nope, my brain's fried now. With that being said, if you want to buy a Tesla because of any given reason, they do have really good range. They can be decent prices at, you know, used prices for the first time in ever are kind of coming down. You can get a used like Model 3 for pretty good prices, and they do have good specs. They're decent cars. If you want to buy one for the car itself and not for the hype train that surrounds them that's about to crash straight into Realityville, then I totally get that. But for the hardcore fanboys, just please be slightly more realistic, because you are draining the life force out of my body every time I see you. I still love you though. Yeah, I'll stick with that. Also, I just noticed that my front lip has a giant crack in it now. That's cool. Oh man. That's why this car needs to be slightly higher in the front, because that happens. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you agree with what anyone said, please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I am having so many strokes right now. If you agree or disagree with what I said, please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I appreciate you guys watching, and if you did enjoy the video and you'd like to see more content from me in the future, please consider hitting that subscribe button, and I will see you guys all next time.